Nancy, I can see Abel, Faith Jebiwott, and I don't ready to begin our lesson today. Are you in a position now to see my screen? Yes, we can see.
Yes.
Confirm from your side.
It's okay.
Oh, it's okay. Maybe if we can now start our class. And today we are going to even to study this topic of the development of assessment tool. And we are going to start by defining the term assessment. And if you can see my screen, Abel, could you kindly read what is shared in my screen? Abel, please.
Yes, I can read.
Come on.
Assessment requires a process of gathering and evaluating information or evidence to measure a person's knowledge, skills, abilities, or performance in a particular domain. There are various types of assessment methods, each designed to serve specific purposes and provide different types of information. Here are some common types of assessment.
Okay, thank you. That's the definition of assessment, and it takes us to types of assessment. And the first assessment is we can see we have the formative assessment. And the formative assessment are used during the learning process to monitor students' progress and provide feedback for improvement. For example, we have the classroom discussions, we have the quizzes, we have the concept map, and we have the peer feedback. This formative assessment we use as we continue with our classes. We move to the next, whereby we have the diagnostic assessment, and the diagnostic assessment refers to the assessment which are being conducted at the beginning of the learning progress to gather information about student prior knowledge, skills, and strength. For example, for this diagnostic assessment, we use the pre-test, we have the survey, we may even conduct the interviews and observation of the checklist. Are we getting?
Yes, madam.
Thank you. We move to the third assessment, whereby we have the performance assessment. And the performance assessment is the assessment evaluate students' ability to apply their knowledge and skills to real-world tasks and scenarios. For example, the performance assessment include the presentation, portfolios, simulations, experiments, and demonstration. The fourth types of assessment is that the authentic assessment. This refers to designing to reflect to real-life situation and tasks that students may encounter outside the classrooms. These types of assessment is what we learn, and then we get into the real-life situations outside the field after learning in classes, so we now encounter in the industries level. The fifth assessment is the norm reference assessment. The norm reference assessment compare an individual's performance to a norm or the standard of a group. They provide information on how a personal performance rank compared to the large population. The sixth is criteria performance reference assessment. The criteria reference assessment measure an individual's performance against predetermined criteria or the learning standards. They determine whether a student has achieved a specific or learning objectives or competencies. The example includes the use of rubrics, checklists, the competency-based assessment. The last type of assessment is self-assessment. The self-assessment involves students reflecting to their own learning, the progress and skills. It encourages metacognitions and helps students become more aware of their strengths and areas of improvement. The self-assessment can take the form of journals, reflections, self-checklist, and self-evaluation. Let me admit somebody here, then we continue. Ivan and Elias, welcome. We are done with the type of assessment, and you can catch up with us as we proceed. We move to table of specification as a form of assessment. And the table of specification, it means this is a tool used to ensure that a test or an assessment measured the content and the thinking skills that are test intends to be measured. And we have steps that helps us in developing the table of specification. Can kindly help me to read the first point? Ivan, are you in?
I'm in.
Kindly read the first point.
Step 1 is to identify the learning outcomes, whereby we start by clearly defining the learning outcomes or objectives that you want to assess. These should be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Break down the learning outcomes into smaller components or subtopics.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you for reading it. It's very clear. We now move to the second step. Anyone to read that? Masigerotich, are you in? Abel? Yes.
Determine the content areas.
Yes.
This means, based on the learning outcome, identify the key content areas or topics that need to be covered in assessment. Ensure that the content areas are comprehensive and representative of the overall curriculum or subject matter. Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us to the other point, which we determine the cognitive level. By determining the cognitive level or thinking skills that you want to assess by each content area. The next point is that we create a matrix. Develop a matrix or table with content area listed in rows and cognitive level listed in the columns. Another point is that specify and specialization, the specialization. In each cell now, after creating the matrix, that takes us in each cell of the matrix now, we specify the type and number of the items or tasks that will assess a particular content area at a specific cognitive level. The type of the item can include, we have the multiple choice question, essay question, the problem solving task, among others. We move to the next point, the balance specification. We ensure that distributions of assessment and items cross the content area and cognitive level is balanced. Avoid emphasizing or under-emphasizing certain topics or cognitive level. We move to review and refine and finalize the table of specification. This helps us. Now from here we will discuss why is it that we have to develop the table of specification. And somebody in the class, Winnie, would you please read us the first point why we should have the table of specification?
For alignment with the learner outcome.
Yes, that's correct. We develop the table of specification. The first reason is that it helps us to align in the alignment of the learning outcomes. The second point is clear assessment of the blueprint. The table of specification, that's the TOS, serves as a blueprint or guide for developing of the assessment. The third important is that it helps in validity and reliability. The TOS contributes to the validity and reliability of the assessment. The second one is that it balances the assessment coverage. The table of specifications aims to ensure a balance and content area and cognitive level in the assessment. It also helps in guiding for the item development. Table of specifications guides items development by specifying the item and the number of the items or tasks required for each, the content area and the cognitive level. It also helps in the standardization and consistency. The table of specifications promotes standardization and consistency in the assessment process. Another one is that it evaluates an improvement. The table of specification helps in facilitation of evaluation and improvement of the assessment. And that marks the end of our lesson today, unless you have any question to ask the class. I now welcome your questions. You can raise your hand if you have any question. Mercy Nancy.
Yes.
You have, I've seen your hand is raised.
Yeah.
Could you please ask a question?
Can you just explain the norm assessment?
The norm assessment. The norm assessment, before I give you my answer, maybe if anyone can share what he or she asks about the norm assessment. Silence shows that no one understands about the norm assessment, and maybe if I can explain it to you by saying that the norm assessment is the assessment whereby we evaluate an individual based on the norm of an institution. Maybe, for example, at KS TVET, we have a certain norm that no student should come below an average of 60. That's or maybe an B. So every student should perform better than that and not below the expectation. That shows that we have a certain norm that we should not come below that average. Is that clear?
Yes.
Nancy, have I answered you? Mercy Nancy?
Yes.
Thank you. So we can now meet in our next class. See you.